and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.
Welcome to episode 23 of the Outer Voices podcast. As always, this is Keem and Esmé. I've done it twice in a row, didn't say your whole name. Haha.
Yay!
We are
You're awesome.
We are back this week after a very fun holiday.
Yay! Holidays.
You know, the patriot and the non-patriot celebrated together this 4th of July.
The 4th of July is just a day that you get off work that you can get drunk with your friends.
Yes, we celebrated America the right way with drunken debauchery.
That's a party at my house. So yes.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was great. Reason I was even saying this because I was trying to pump us up. See, our news stories for the day as we go into our news segment. One's gonna bring us down, and hopefully the other one will make us laugh some. So that's what's going to happen. So I'm trying to get us a little pumped up beforehand. But we got, actually, before I even start that, we have a very special show today. We have a special interview with SJ
Bennett from the Outcry. Who you have heard their music here before a couple of different times. And I meant to just get her on to do a quick artist interview to promote their debut show, which is coming up this Thursday, which we'll have more details about that later. But this conversation turned into a 30-minute conversation about music as activism and about how to have tough conversations with people in your life and about how to find common ground with people who have differing views from you to where you can have productive conversations. And it turned into a whole conversation. And I just could not cut any of that out. So we have changed our format a little bit this week to include that conversation. You're welcome, guys. You're welcome. This is a really good conversation.
And another difference is this week we don't have a specific topic we realized the other day that for newer listeners, especially since we've rebooted the show, they probably don't need a slight refresher course on what this show is about and what we do and what's the meaning of it. So that's what we're going to do in our normal topic section today.
Yeah, we're going to tell y'all why we call ourselves the Outer Voices.
So stick around for that. Definitely stick around for the interview. But now, if no one can hear me rubbing my hands together, let's move into the news.
Yay!
So I'm bringing the news this week, and so let's get us one out of Arkansas that will piss us right the fuck off. An Arkansas bill would force rape survivors to notify their attacker if they need an abortion. So this news story comes out of Bustle. It is a bill that's in the legislature in Arkansas, HB 1566, that would make it illegal for a woman to have an abortion without communicating with the man who impregnated her. Whether it be husband, boyfriend, hookup, or rapist. This comes out of a previous law in 2009 that said any family member related to a deceased person has say over the deceased person's body. And according to Arkansas, that applies also to fetuses.
Yes.
And
or that's what this new legislation would include in that law,
right?
Explicitly, right? Is they're trying to specify within the text of that law that an embryo or fetus, counts as a deceased person, as a deceased family member.
And with that, it's some very awful things that come with this law. For instance, as I read down this is awful. So, if a teenage girl, if she's under 18, in Arkansas it doesn't matter. If you're under 18, it's up to your parents whether you can get an abortion or not. Like, if you're not of the legal age, you do not have a say in getting an abortion. Mm-hmm. However, if she is under 18 and she was impregnated by someone who is over 18, he has to say if she gets an abortion.
Yes.
So, just throwing it out there, if a 18-year-old or a 17-year-old gets pregnant and goes, I want an abortion, her parents go, hey, you can go get an abortion. The father of this child can say, no, you can't.
Yeah.
He can override her parents, her, everyone. Let's break it down even more. So, let's say a 17-year-old girl gets raped by, let's just say, a member of her church who is 35 years old. And she goes, I want an abortion. Her parents go, yeah, you need an abortion. Her rapist can say, you can't get an abortion because that's my child.
Yep.
Arkansas, fuck you, okay? Jesus Christ. First of all, we don't, like, in the world you live in, that's okay. It really isn't, but in this mindscape you've created, that's okay. But here out in the real world, one person does not have a say over another person's body. At all. You don't. You don't have the right to tell another person what they can do with their body and what's in their body. It's different with a parent and a child, but with this law, even two adults, a man can tell a woman whether she can have an abortion or not.
Yeah.
That is not acceptable. In the real world where people are equal, that is not acceptable.
Yeah.
2, Arkansas, why in the fuck would you purposely put in something that would give rapists, people who prey on young women, who violate them, who commit crimes against them, to have a say over what happens to them? You don't get a privilege for rape. You don't get, in a lot of cases, rape is about power. It's power dynamics. So even after,
I would argue that in all cases, rape is about power dynamics.
True. But rape is a crime, obviously. Why would you continue to give the rapist power after they've committed a crime? Nothing about, and that's nothing about this law is good. There's nothing about what they're doing that has any good benefit to anyone.
Yeah.
Like, this is only a hindrance. This is only something that's awful. There's no upside to it. I don't care. All you're doing is to satisfy this fucked up religious moral bullshit train of thought that you've developed.
Yeah. Also, this is the thing that is pissing me off about this, right? Of this as I read through it more. So first off, Arkansas is not the only state who is doing this. There are multiple states who are enacting legislation like this that would require the approval or at least the notification, like for a person seeking an abortion to either get the approval of or at the very least to notify the person who impregnated them, right? Arkansas is not the only one who is doing that. There are multiple states that are working on or have passed legislation like that. But one thing that is, and in all of these situations, the law includes that a woman would have to notify or seek the approval of a person who raped them and impregnated them.
Right.
Right. All of these states are including that, right? You can't, if you are raped and become pregnant, in order to obtain an abortion, you have to then have contact with the person who raped you, which first off in itself, like this is violent on so many accounts, right? Like this is violence in not allowing a woman the autonomy to make her own healthcare choices. This is imposing the state's will on her own healthcare choices. This is violence in that it is forcing her to maintain contact with a person who violated her, who assaulted her. And it is violence in that it is allowing a person who committed a crime against you continued say, like you were saying, continued say in this person's life, continued control over this person's body, continued power in this dynamic, right? But you will notice that none of these states that are enacting these laws have any sort of criminal justice reform to improve prosecution of rape, to improve police investigation of rape, to improve processing of rape kits, to do any of these things, right? They are granting rapists power over the people that they rape without improving the criminal justice system that would hold these people accountable for the acts that they have committed.
No,
they are holding the victim accountable to the rapist instead of the other way around.
They are straight up rewarding rapists. Like that's what's happening. You're rewarding someone for rape, and really, let's just be honest. They're rewarding what they think men should do.
Right, which is that men should have unquestionable control over women's bodies in every situation.
Right.
Including physically, including politically, like all of these things. So, this is disgusting. I don't know if you guys know.
Absolutely horrifying. Also, I always like to point out, before a woman can have an abortion, she has to contact the person who impregnated her. That also, so in the case of, let's say a woman was raped by an unknown person. She was brutally raped by an unknown person. In that case, she can't get an abortion, actually. I looked that up.
That is...
Yep.
That's horrific.
Yes, it is. Very horrific.
Jesus. I'm not okay with this right now.
These people, these laws have no, like I was saying earlier, they have no good points. They have no upside. It's religious legislation. It's not even moral legislation, because this is not moral. Giving rape victims, or I mean, not rape victims, but rapists power is immoral.
Yes.
I don't care how you try to phrase it, what power you give to your invisible sky daddy. What you are doing, this law is immoral. It is terrible. But the only reason you are doing it is because you think an abortion is the worst possible thing ever. And that invisible sky daddy is going to get really mad at you if you allow it to happen. And under any case, that God would rather someone rape someone. God would rather a man force his will upon a woman for no other reason than to get power and like sexual pleasure out of it. You would rather that. You would rather an innocent person be brutalized and destroyed physically and mentally than to scrape out a few cells and protect that living being's life. You want to talk about being pro-life? Oh, I'm so pro-life, and your abortion's black, whatever. You don't care a damn thing about the actual person who this happened to. You don't care a damn thing about the person who has lived their life and someone has destroyed them. Destroyed them. You don't care about that person's life. You care about something that's not even there. Mm-hmm. And I can't stand. I can't deal with that bullshit. I can't deal with these with these people and what they say. I'm sorry. I'm getting so pissed off that I'm stuttering. I can't deal with them and what they say. You would rather see a person, a living, breathing person with a family, with their own life, who deserves their life. You'd rather see them suffer and die. And even that child, if that child is born, do you know what kind of life that child will likely have? A parent was gonna look. A parent's gonna look at that. A parent that has been raped is gonna have to look in that child's face every day and see what has happened to them over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. That's a terrible life for the parent and for the child, because there's going to be a sense of resentment. They may love their child if it's born, but there's always going to be a pain there. And that's not even going over what's going to happen if this person is trying to raise this child probably on their own. The financial hardships, the psychological hardships, the emotional hardships. You're dooming two people to an awful life because of your religious bullshit. You're letting criminals and heartless, evil people have power over someone that's innocent, so you can feel good about your goddamn holy book. Go fuck right the fuck off. Arkansas and every other state that's doing these laws, fuck off.
I don't think that this is about religion any more than rape is about sex. This is 100% about power and control.
True. But
100% about power and control and misogyny. Men, the same kinds of men who rape women are the same kinds of people, the same kinds of men who want to put these laws into action, who believe that men should have control over women's bodies. Women should not have bodily autonomy. They should not be able to make their own choices about what to do with their bodies because men are superior, right? That's what this is. This is men wanting to impose their will over the bodily autonomy of women.
And their justification for it.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Right. Because it is ordained by God that men are higher than women. That's their justification. Anyway.
I can't stand it. Let's move on to the second story before I have a brain aneurysm.
No, I want to say one more thing about this before we move on. I'll be fast.
No, just go for it, please.
Which is, so we are living in a world that does not prioritize the bodily autonomy of women, right? States are left and right passing laws like this that would require women to seek out the permission of their fucking rapist in order to get an abortion when they were impregnated during rape. But there is no legislation, there is no accountability for the investigation of rape. There is no provision in these laws that would require women to contact their rapist to get appropriate health care. There is no provision that says that in order for a rapist to be able to exercise that control, they are effectively admitting guilt to the charge of rape.
Very true.
There is no provision for that, right? This is effectively allowing a rapist to go free while continuing to exercise this response. And this is like, Keem, do you happen to know the statistic on the percentage of rapes that are prosecuted and the rapist is convicted?
I do not know the statistic offhand.
3%.
God damn it.
3% of rape cases result in conviction. And the nearest statistic that they can figure out is that only something like 30% of rapes are even reported.
Right. I did know that.
Because the police do not investigate it. Rape is the only crime that is committed in our country right now. Okay, no, I can't say that. Rape is the top crime that is committed in our country right now, where the victim is put on trial.
Right. Oh,
right.
And that's because in their minds and their logic, the victim is a woman.
Yes.
And women want it.
Yes. Right. A woman reports a rape, and the first question is, well, were you doing X, Y, or Z? Right. A rape victim or a sexual assault victim is seen as having asked for it. Right. Well, what were you wearing? Well, what were you doing in that neighborhood at night? Well, you were at a party by yourself, so you must have known this would happen. Well, blah, blah, blah. No. The responsibility for this action lies on the person who committed it.
Right.
And these laws, the point that I was making, though, is that rape is already an under-investigated crime. It is not taken seriously by law enforcement right now at all. Like any kind of violence against women, rape, sexual assault, domestic violence, not taken seriously by the law enforcement at all. But this is a crime that is not taken seriously. It's under investigated. It is not dealt with in a way that that is promoting any kind of accountability for these crimes. And these laws are continuing to enact violence against women without doing anything at all to improve the accountability of the perpetrators for these crimes, which is outlandish and absurd and disgusting.
It honestly seems like the desired ending to this is to make rape legal. Like I'm sorry, like that's a fucked up thing to say, but like we've discussed multiple laws very similar to this on the show already.
Yes.
And they all just seem to be working towards, hey, rape should not be legal. It should not be illegal. It should just be okay.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And this is one of the major reasons that I am pursuing the profession in law, Because, god damn it, somebody's got to do something.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's got to, like, I mean, I'm one person, but somebody's got to be the one person in the room going, hey, could you stop?
Yeah. Oh, shit.
It's our legal system is insane.
Yeah.
Speaking, and this perfect segue into the next news thing.
Yeah.
About our legal system being insane. So this one's local news, and hopefully it's lighter. There's some heavy subject matter. It's a slightly lighter story. But this is from locally here in Oxford, in Oxford/Lafayette County. So a local Oxford man, his name is Matt Reardon. He was actually arrested a few weeks back for aggravated stalking. Now, Mr. Reardon around town has been known as a troublemaker, to say the least. And in Mississippi, in Oxford, Mississippi, being a troublemaker, that's saying something. He was an asshat, local asshat would be the best description.
I feel like they should have started the news story with that, like Matt Reardon, local asshat.
Yeah. But he was, and he's also local racist. But I mean, it's Oxford, so has a lot of them here. He was arrested for aggravated stalking and a few other charges, but his main charges were aggravated stalking. He also went into some places with some weapons and all that stuff. So he was arrested, and he pled guilty. So in lieu of jail time, however, they offered him something else. They offered him the option of banishment. That's right. In 2017, Lafayette County has banished a man from Lafayette County. And if he sets foot in the county again and is caught, he will incur not only the charge of aggravated stalking again, but the charge that was dropped and get automatic jail time. He is banished from Lafayette County. Currently, it's only 5 years. But yes, in Mississippi, we don't offer jail time. We don't send people to jail for committing crimes. We banish them like it's medieval fucking England.
I just have Romeo and Juliet stuck in my head. Every time you say he was banished.
Away with ye! You are banished from the kingdom.
Be merciful, say death. Well.
And the thing is, this guy has a 2-year-old daughter, which besides the charges already messing with his custody, because you can't be a dumbass and have custody of your child. At least you shouldn't in most cases. His daughter lives in Lafayette County, where he is banished.
Yep.
So, yeah. I don't like to laugh at other people's misfortune, even if they do deserve it. But Jesus Christ. How the hell, a judge was sitting there and was just like, you know what? You're banished. Like, you have to leave the county and never return henceforth. Mississippi is on some extra shit this week.
Yeah.
Just out here being ridiculous. But I mean, it couldn't happen to a more deserving person.
Do you remember last year when you were telling me about the guy who was driving around the square, like, just yelling racist ass shit at people?
Yes.
I wonder if that was him.
It probably was.
Just, like, yelling racist shit at people who were just walking down the street as he drove by.
Yeah, Oxford is always a place where you can find someone randomly shouting racial slurs out the side of their vehicle. It's like a thing here. It's insanity. But yeah, you fuck around in Lafayette County and you will get banished.
Banished. Good grief.
Jesus. My God.
Yeah.
If these two stories combined don't illustrate something to you, our legal system is fucked.
Yes, that is true. What the hell is wrong with this country?
It's just out of control. Out of control. With that, so we're gonna move right into what we're going to talk about today, and we were on. We're going to be on. The show hasn't been posted yet, but we're on the Podunk Polymath with Chris Watson. The other day, we were talking.
That'll be tomorrow, as of airtime.
Is it tomorrow?
No.
I think it might be next Sunday.
Well, he airs on Monday.
Next Monday, yeah. Next.
Yeah,
it might be
no,
next
you're
Monday.
right. It's next Monday. It's the. Anyway.
Either way, we recorded for the Podunk Polymath, and we were tasked with just describing what we do for that show's listeners, and we came to the realization that it's been a while since before Esmé was even a part of this show that we've actually explained why we're called the Out of Voices podcast. And the road that led us here and why we do this podcast.
Yes.
So, for anyone who's like just picked up recently, which is most of our listeners, I actually started this podcast with a few other co-hosts a little over a year ago. And at the time, it was known as the Angry Black Atheist Podcast. Because the hosts were either angry, black, or atheist, all three combined, like myself. And after discussion with another podcast over the name, because the name was very similar to another pretty popular podcast that I had not heard of before I started. So
a likely story, Keem.
Yeah, some people didn't believe it, but I was relatively new to podcasts in general last year. So I had not heard of this other podcast, and I talked with the host of the other podcast, and I was like happy to change the name because I respected. It was Angry Black Rant.
Yeah.
With Ishmael, and like I have the utmost respect. I love Angry Black Rant. Now that I've actually listened to it over the past year, and I have the utmost respect for Ish. Like, great show. Go check that show out. But after talking to him, I decided to change the name. And as I was trying to think of a name, it came to me that the purpose of the show was to give people who would normally not have their voices heard, who historically and currently in the society get pushed to the wayside. Mm-hmm. People who aren't straight white males, straight white Christian males, or or well, my favorite word, white Anglo-Saxon persons. Gotta throw the wasps in there, you know.
Yeah.
Like people who are the people who in this country are traditionally marginalized, who don't get listened to, who have to fight for their rights to just be human. We wanted to give those people the opportunity and a outlet, a platform to say what they deal with, talk about their problems, get their voices out there. These outside voices, i.e., the outer voices.
Yeah.
So, when that came down, when that came in my mind, I pitched it to my other hosts, and they were just like, well, it's your show, do whatever. Because they were the most supportive bunch in the world. But as things evolved over time, I took a hiatus after the Pulse shooting last year, because with everything that was going on in my life currently, and that honestly affected me in a much harder way than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And Esmé around February pitched the idea of, hey, we should bring back the show. And
really, I just wanted to be able to tell people that I'm on a podcast.
True.
That's what that was. Because I knew that you would let me be on your podcast, and I wanted to be on a podcast. Also, because you really like doing the podcast.
Yes, I love doing it. But Esmé pitched it, and I was like, sure, let's do it. And after a few more weeks, actually about a few more months,
yeah,
we started it back. And someone suggested Esmé do a sex segment.
That was you.
Really? Was it me?
It was you.
Oh, I'm smart.
You are smart.
But and then this leads us to now. It's what we are. So that's what we're about. We are here to bring the voices of people who, like I said, wouldn't normally get their fair shake, who are trying to justify their place as people. We are here to bring those voices to everyone, to let those voices be heard. And we're also here to get these important things, these important news stories, these important laws, these important issues that affect those people out there.
Mm-hmm.
And musicians who are trying to get their voices out there. And that is very important, because we work pretty hard trying to search out musicians who want to get their music on, musicians who have something to say, and all the, like, we all know, like, let's just be real, let's just be really real. Most of the stuff on the radio is garbage.
That is true.
It's the things that the majority of people are conditioned to want to hear. But there are artists out there, and a few make the radio, most don't. But there are artists out there with things to say, with music they want to bring out. That, yeah, they're playing a little local stuff, but they want to bring their music, they want to bring their message to larger audiences, and we want to give those people a stage.
Yes. And also, Keem, you let me be in charge of picking our music for the most part, so you may not have noticed this, but all of our bands that we have featured so far fall into that same message, that same mission that we're trying to promote with this show of promoting and giving an outlet, giving a platform to people with views and identities that are historically pushed aside.
Oh, I noticed.
Okay.
I definitely noticed. But I mean, there may be times where, you know, sometimes the music is just, it may not have a message, it may not have a like political message, but it's music you wouldn't normally hear.
Yes.
Because you know, I'm always like I'm all about the message and something unique.
Yep.
But like this is what we're about. This is what we do. This is what we believe in. Honestly, I've discussed this a few times on the show, and I discussed it earlier. My major goal in life is to be a lawyer, to advocate for human rights. That's always been my life's goal. This is what I've dedicated my life to. I decided that when I was a child, and this show is a major part of that goal. While on a professional level, I can go in and hopefully I'll be able to go in and, you know, work within the law and work to change the law.
Yeah.
For the betterment of everyone. This show allows people to say why those laws need to be changed, to say why society needs to be changed, to tell their story, to tell our story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of what we do. Esmé, you want to add anything? Because I'm sorry, I got going there.
You did get going. I just want to expand a little bit with the sex segment. So Keem suggested that I do a sex segment mostly because I just won't shut up about sex.
Yeah, Esmé, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But this sex segment fits in really, really well with my view of sex and pleasure and education and life, which is that, like, sex and bodily autonomy with regards to sexual choices is a justice issue, right? We live in, especially in America, we live in a place where sex is a performative act explicitly, especially for people who are raised as female, who are raised as women. We are in so many venues discouraged from owning our own sexuality and expressing it in ways that feel good to us, that are authentic to ourselves. Instead, we're pressured to express our sexuality in ways that are pleasing to men and to the male gaze, right? So instead of doing things that legitimately feel good to us, we're doing things that we think is expected of us, right? And so we have tons and tons of hang-ups about like what sex is, and about how to communicate about sex, and about what consent is, and about how to have sex that is equally, or that is appropriately pleasurable for both or any parties involved, right? So often, and I have done this myself too, which is sometimes if I'm having trouble like achieving orgasm, I will just say, well, no, never mind. And lately when I do it, it's because I genuinely am not prioritizing an orgasm that day, right? Like, I have recognized that orgasm isn't always something that I want or need out of a sexual encounter. But in the past, I have done that because I was afraid to ask for what I wanted. I was afraid to ask for the things that would get me there. I was afraid that it was going to take too long and that I was inconveniencing my partner by asking for those things. So, but I think talking about sex and talking about pleasure and talking about toys and talking about consent and being able to do those things in a way that's really, really frank and really open and not full of shame and not full of not full of like coercive language, that's a justice issue. That's my speech about my sex segment.
Very true.
So thank you is what I'm saying. Thank you, Keem, for letting me do this, because it actually is fitting in way better than you had even anticipated with the message of this show.
Right. And I am very much a fan of the sex segment. I'm all in support of it, because
you just like to brag about your sex life.
I do not like to brag, but I can, but I don't like to.
Are you sure though?
Yeah. Though I will say I've had a great week. and thank everyone involved.
Anyway.
But
so who are you, Keem?
Who am I?
Who are you?
I'm an enigma wrapped in a mystery, tossed into a bag of what the fuck.
Yes.
I am your angry black and atheist host who is fired up about most things that are wrong in the world. Who talks a lot.
Yes.
And will probably piss you off and say some inappropriate things.
Probably.
But I'm charming.
You're charming.
And I hope our listeners love me, because I need attention.
For those playing along at home, what are your pronouns?
What?
What are your pronouns?
My pronouns, simple, he, masculine, he. I'm straight, cis, black male.
Is that the first time anybody's asked you your pronouns?
Yes, actually. I was not ready.
To say he, him?
Yes. I was not ready. No one's ever asked me that.
Welcome. I'm glad. I'm so proud I was your first.
You know what that's called? But you know what that's called? Privilege.
That is privilege.
But yes, I am the one that's not so queer.
Not so queer.
Not so queer.
Yeah, you're a cishet dude.
Yep. But that's okay.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with being a cishet dude, as long as you don't get mad when I call you a cishet dude, because otherwise we won't get along.
Nah, I'm good. And Esmé, who are you?
All right, so I'm Esmé, as you know. Pronouns she, her, or they, them. Because I'm weird about gender. To steal the phrase. No, I'm not going to steal the phrase from Bex because I don't exactly remember what they said. But no, I have feelings about gender. I'm working on it. I don't feel any particular reason to pin that down. Whatever. It's fun. It's fun. I am, depending on what day you ask me, either pansexual or bisexual or both. I feel pansexual is probably most accurate, but there's a lot of political power that comes with identifying as bisexual. It enables me to have a lot of conversations with people about polysexuality, which is sexual attraction to people of multiple genders, or people with people of different genders. It enables me to have conversations about it without getting caught up in the quote unquote special snowflake-ness of calling myself pansexual. A lot of people don't want to use that word because they think that it's a made-up Tumblr word that is all hippie and crunchy and snowflakey, and I'm like, I mean, no, but whatever. So sometimes I call myself bisexual, sometimes I call myself pansexual. I am also atheist. That was a long road. My road meandered from Catholicism through like agnosticism and then into some other stuff, and then like through paganism for a while, and now I'm pretty settled in atheism.
Esmé has been everything.
I have been most things. That is true. I was never Southern Baptist.
Hey yo, I kind of was. Missionary Baptist in the house.
What else? What else is a thing?
I'll tell you what's the thing. If people are listening, that they probably might want to know. We both are polyamorous as well.
Yay! We are polyamorous. In fact, we're polyamorous together. What?
Yeah. And if you don't know what that means, Esmé, you want to explain it?
So we are gonna go into polyamory and non-monogamy on a future episode. Ooh, we should do that soon.
Yes.
But polyamory, we are polyamorous, which means that both of us currently have, but are, more importantly, both of us are open to having multiple loving, intimate relationships ongoing at the same time.
Right.
Right. Like, you don't have to have multiple partners in order to be polyamorous, but polyamory means that you are open to having those relationships. You are your relationships are set up to where you could have more than one at a time.
Right.
But yeah, we will go more in depth into that at some point in the future, because there's a whole lot of vocabulary that's involved there, and a whole lot of conversation about what that is and how that looks. But yeah, I currently have 3 partners, which is a lot, but I'm making it work because I love my partners.
I have 2 and a possible.
You have 2, and it's complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will go into more in detail about that in the future, about what that is and how that looks, and what it takes to do that and to make it work. But yeah.
But yes, that is real. That's what we are. That's what we are. That's what we do. That's who we are. And that's what this podcast is all about. So, for anyone listening who, was digging on our outlook and have something to say, who want to come yell, because we like to yell.
Oh boy, do we like to yell.
Some of us don't have volume control most of the time. Nudge, Esmé, nudge.
I do not need your input about my volume control. Thank you, though. I know I'm loud. Anyway.
Yes. But if you got something to say, you got some music you want to share, this is an open show.
Yes, this show works best with input from our listeners, especially if you're a musician, because we need music. But if you just want to come on and yell with us, tell us what you want to yell about, because we're probably open to yelling about it, and we'll get you on as a guest. We love to have guests on.
We definitely we beg for guests.
Yes. Also, I want to take this moment to introduce something that we're going to be doing. So like Keem keeps saying, in the middle of August, he's moving up to Brooklyn to start law school. And that week that he moves, we decided that we didn't want to do a super intense, prep-heavy show like we have a tendency to do. We're going to do something a little bit different. This is August 20th. We're going to be doing a question and answer session with both of us, to where we will be answering reader or listener questions on the show. So if you have a question for us about who we are, about what we do, about our views on X or Y or Z, or about I don't know, what kind of music we like to listen to, what our favorite movie is, like what my favorite condoms are, wait, you can just go back and listen to the barriers episode and find out. Like, if you have any questions for us about basically anything, go to our Facebook page, the Outer Voices Podcast, hit the message us button, and we will compile those questions and we'll be answering them on air on August 20th. So please do that because we want to talk about ourselves some more. We like to talk about ourselves.
And we want to answer your questions. We want to talk about you.
Yes. So we'll be compiling questions all the way up until August 19th for that, or even the morning of the 20th. But so send us your questions. We want to answer all of your questions, and then we will answer them on our podcast.
Cover us with your sweet, sweet questions.
Yes.
Wait, that sounded vaguely sexual. My bad.
It came out of your mouth, so it sounded vaguely sexual anyway.
Yeah.
That sounded more than vaguely sexual. Anyway, so ask us your questions is the point. Ask us your questions. We will answer them on August 20th.
I can't wait.
Yay! Me neither. I'm excited.
And I think with that, we are going to move into the interview.
Yes, so this interview, like I said, I sat down to do a quick artist interview with SJ Bennett from the Outcry, and this turned into a whole long conversation where we really dug into some really great stuff. So stay tuned, listen to this awesome interview, and thanks again to SJ for being on the show. The Outcry's debut show is coming up on this Thursday, the July 13th. It's at 7:30, I believe, is when it starts. It's at the High Tone here in Memphis. And SJ is going to talk a little bit more in this interview. You'll hear SJ tell us a little bit more about what it is and what's going to be there. There's a whole lot of local activists who are going to be involved. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening as part of this show. So listen to this interview and hear SJ tell you about it herself. Thank you for agreeing to talk with me about your music.
Oh, it's no problem. I'm talking about it, obviously.
Yeah, my Facebook tells me that you have no problem at all talking about your music.
Look, if I don't toot my own horn, how much other people going to get excited?
Exactly. Exactly.
I've got to convince people I'm badass so they'll actually come.
I am convinced that you're badass, so it's working, I think.
Awesome. I'm glad.
Yes. I'm convinced. Keem is convinced. Everybody that I talk to about you is convinced. So hopefully I will bring a contingent with me on Thursday.
What? Yay!
I am sure.
Awesome.
I am sure trying to get people to come with me. Everybody's like, but it's on a Thursday. I'm like, no, you guys. It's a show. Like, you have to come to the show. It's going to be awesome.
There's going to be some, really dramatic but really cool stuff that I've never seen done that I'm going to do. It sounds mysterious, I know.
That does sound mysterious, and I kind of want to pump you for information now because we're recording this for the podcast. Tell us what's going to happen.
Let me see what kind of hints I can give you. Well, there's something that I'm going to do that's very vulnerable. And then I'm going to invite everybody to be vulnerable, which is exciting.
That is exciting.
And I will tell you that, hopefully it'll be powerful and not awkward. Also, there's going to be a community art piece for Black Lives Matter. And so all of you will get to come and add your addition to that.
That is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. There's also going to be tables for some social justice organizations in Memphis There's going to be Memphis Feminist Collective, Mid-South Peace and Justice Center, HOPE, which is Homeless Organizing for Power and Equality. There's going to be, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. There's like 3 more, and I can't think of them right now. That's embarrassing. Don't tell them that. But there's going to be 3 more. They're really good organizations kind of doing good stuff. And I'm glad for them to be able to be there. Oh, there's Concerned Citizen Coalition.
Awesome.
Which is honestly the ones that do all the protests.
Yeah.
Or do all that, like, very action-oriented. So, power to them.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, my action outlet is, well, music and the work that I do. But their action outlet is, like, chain themselves to barrels in front of the Diamond Pipeline base. Yeah, like that's kind of something they do.
They don't really mess around when it comes to protest.
They do the best. Yeah, so they're going to be there. So that'll be interesting. If anybody else is like, you know, that much of a rebel. Yeah. But they're going to have information tables. You can talk to them, sign up, like, email address, sign up some volunteering opportunities if you want to. And honestly, I think a big reason that I want them is there's a lot of information about some bullshit. Can I curse?
Yes. Oh, yes, please.
Okay. Okay. There's a lot of information about some bullshit going on in Memphis that people don't know. Like, for example, there are only 40 beds for women, about 40 beds for women for homeless shelters.
Yeah.
There's like 300 for men. In the entire city, there's not any free homeless shelters in the entire city. And people don't know these things.
Yeah.
And there's been some places shut down for sexual assault as far as staff members for the women. And it's just not a safe place there's not a rehabilitative focus within Memphis for them. Mm-hmm. And so they're actually, you know, continuing the issue of homelessness, the government is, by doing that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So that's an example of some of the things you can learn from the tables.
Yes. I know some of the people who are involved in some of these organizations, and there will be people there pointing out all of the bullshit that is happening.
Yes. Yes. They're cool ass people. I really like them. I respect them a lot. So next Thursday is our huge debut event.
Yes.
So that's the one we're talking about. But I've done a few sneak peeks because it's all new music.
Yeah.
So this band is evolving from SJ and the Outcry, and I've evolved it. And I'm the only one from the original band. It's a whole new sound. It's all new songs, all new spoken word pieces, just like a whole new project. But it's called the Outcry, and so nobody's seen this stuff unless I do a sneak peek.
Yeah. To
kind of promote, you know. So I've done one at Growlers and one at that birthday party. I've done a couple like acoustic sets places, but hopefully it worked.
Yeah, I'm excited. My Facebook has been blowing up with like your live videos and all these like, hey, come see us at this place. And I'm like, I didn't know about this. No, and so I haven't been able to get out and see you yet. But that's I'll be there. Funny. I'll be there for your debut show. I'm so excited.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, to meet you in person. That's awesome. And yeah, get used to that because up until next Thursday, that's what's going to be. Boom, 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 boom. Posting. As much as I possibly can.
Yeah, to get everything out there so that everybody knows about your show. And I don't want anyone not to come because they don't know. Yeah, my Facebook I've been blowing up people's Facebook with this event too. I think I've shared it on our podcast page like 3 times. Like, of course, we only have like 80 or 90 followers almost 90 followers, and half of them are not even in Memphis. I'm just like, come to Memphis and go to the show, you guys.
They know our name though now.
Yes, they do.
I appreciate that. We have to support each other, so that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, tell me a little bit more about like what this band is, and like what's the point of this band? What are you trying to do with your music?
Some of it I'm trying to be brave and vulnerable with, because I really write from a very raw place in me. Mm-hmm. All my music is really passionate and very, you can tell it comes from like a deep part in me.
Yeah.
And so some of the music is just really being able to share that gift. But most of the music is geared towards, like when I write the songs, I'm thinking about this project and how I want it to be very social justice inclined, which makes sense of this, our debut has that kind of theme. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my songs call shit out. A lot of my spoken word pieces call shit out. I will sit down, and what comes out of my hand is fuck patriarchy. It's like, I cannot.
I mean, there are worse things.
Yeah, right. What comes, because I only have so much control over what comes from me. It's like I'm a channel, and it just like flows out, and I'm like, whoa. And it's like I'm reading for the first time too. Yeah. So it's like I get to experience the performance from my hand. And that's the shit that comes out 99.9% of the time. It's either something that's really raw and vulnerable about my experience of being human, mm-hmm. or it's something that's really calling some deep shit out in society.
We need more people to do that. we need more of that in this world.
I mean, we all have these specific outlets where our gifts can be, or our gifts can come through, where we can have that platform if we use it. And I feel like everyone's is different because it's a podcast,
Yes.
And that happens to be where mine is. That's what I have, that's the platform that I have. So that's probably the most powerful. I mean, my students, we talk about a lot of shit too.
Yeah.
But honestly, they're so woke already. They know so much shit. They teach me things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can definitely relate to that one.
Yeah. I was just like, if I was that woke when I was in high school, where would I be now? I can't fathom, because,
exactly.
I mean, when I was 16, I was ignorant as fuck.
Yeah.
I came from a racist household, Southern Baptist, Trump voting, Republican, Reagan loving family. Mm-hmm. And I always struggled against a lot of things, and I'm the black sheep. So I always struggled against a lot of things growing up, and had a lot of principle arguments about things, but I wasn't informed. So the arguments were more coming from an emotional point, because it's just like in my gut or in my, my conviction, versus me actually being educated about those things. And so I couldn't tell them why that it felt wrong to say a racist comment. I mean, I tried,
Yeah.
But now I can communicate that so much better. If I could have done that in high school, in the community that I grew up in, such a missed opportunity. Although, let's be honest, would they even listen? I'm exhausted. I'm just so exhausted from those conversations that the cognitive dissonance is so strong that it ends up being a waste of my breath.
Yeah. I think everybody listening to this podcast can feel that. We are all, anybody who can stand to listen to this podcast knows that struggle and knows that just that
right.
exhaustion of talking until you're blue in the face, trying to make people understand, and like they just don't. They just don't understand why these things are problems. But
right. And there's such a fine line between being so angry for something and refusing to accept it, and being angry for something for justice but accepting at the same time.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. But at the same time, on the refusing to accept that, because this is something I've learned very recently, because I've always loved the quote, I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change, I'm changing the things I cannot accept, by Angela Davis, and I'm like really taking it to heart. But the truth is, it wreaks havoc on me. It is so hard on me. I'll get sick, I'll get drained, I'll be driven crazy, I'll get depressed. It takes so much out of me to be in this place of battle constantly, because I will not accept it. So I'm trying to move more into I accept the world is shitty, but I'm going to do what I can about it.
Yeah.
The world is not fair. It is not, but I will do what I can. And that's a little bit easier. It's still not easy. It's still exhausting. But I can imagine, like, I'm a white woman. I mean, yeah, I am gay, and I'm a sexual assault survivor, so the level of intersectional privilege, is at some level. But I cannot possibly imagine how people of color feel. I'm just, like, the dose that we're getting and how exhausted we are, like,
yeah.
I cannot imagine if I had felt this way in my entire life.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the advantage of me being ignorant in high school. I wasn't drained by the time Trump got elected,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now it's time for the rest of us to throw ourselves into this fight.
Yeah. Yeah. It's time for us to really hold each other accountable. And the conversation has become so much louder. Though it seems like people just will not listen, there are people beginning to listen every day at the same time. And that's encouraging. It's one by one. There are people that you're wasting your breath on, and there's people that don't know, and maybe at first you're wasting your breath on, but then they get it.
Yeah.
And when you can find those people, it's worth it, because each person that gets it can help someone else, or someone else gets it, and it's a chain reaction.
Yeah.
And that's how the conversation is louder now,
Yep.
It's finally gotten down the chain enough that you can hear that, because so long people have been trying to do this. This is nothing new. Yeah. But it's just been so buried. No one's listened. The conversation hasn't been able to make it mainstream, but now it is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what Black Lives Matter is. Everybody knows that the concept of privilege. They may deny it, but they know,
They may argue about semantics and language. That's the most infuriating. Like, I understand that this is a thing, but I don't like to call it privilege. So I'm like, no, you can't just change the language of this conversation. This language is bigger than you, right? You have to, at some point, you have to step back and say, okay, this is the word that people are using to describe this.
What would you possibly use instead?
I don't know. This is what happens when you argue about this with middle-class, cis-het white dudes. Ugh.
I have done that twice this week, and I've learned my lesson. Because I did it with one, it's like one of those Facebook messages, debates, and I'm like, why do I do that? I know better. Why?
Yep.
Don't do this. But I did it. And it was by someone that I, respected and thought to be like a progressive individual. So I thought, oh, okay, we can have this discussion and it'll get somewhere. But it didn't. And that was so frustrating. So I was like, if I say it this way, maybe it will. And if I say this way, maybe it will. And then finally I was like, wait, it's just not going to. And that was a very draining experience. Mm-hmm. And I definitely learned a lesson. I'm going to have to pick and choose my battles better.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. I feel like if we can all each have a little piece of this conversation and everybody who's able to have a little bit of that conversation chips in, maybe we'll get there eventually. But trying to change somebody's mind all by yourself is just going to drain you.
Yeah, because we all know different truths from our different experiences, so we can add those together, find that middle ground of things like, okay, I actually agree with you on that. Let's start there. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
You know, and there are things with pretty much everybody I've ever talked to that I've agreed with, you know?
Yep.
And I forget to start there.
Yeah.
I forget to validate. And like, because I get pissed and shouldn't have to do that. You know, it's like, it's not my responsibility to center your feelings and do emotional labor for you and be like, look, it's okay, you're right about this. Or I'm not saying you're a bad person or it's your fault or your intentions are wrong. I'm just like, I want to be straightforward. And I'm not even feeling hostile when I do that, especially when it's through not necessarily one-to-one conversation, but through print.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just think I'm in this direct way, and I don't necessarily cushion what I'm saying. I just am like blunt, but it's not ever a personal attack. It's more about the facts, you know?
Yeah.
Like, actually, this is the fact, you know, or actually, this is real. And that seems to come across as aggressive because, of course, it's so painful to recognize those sort of things that you have privilege. Like,
exactly.
It's an extremely painful process. And, you know, I'm not gentle. I don't think I'm being harsh, but I'm definitely, like, not trying to be gentle, you know? And so there's this defensive thing that happens because, you know, that little person inside of us that always, like, protects us by unhealthy ways. Like, okay, let's just Netflix. Or, you know, let's get high. Or let's, you know, that's just, like, it's kind of honorable. We're trying to protect ourselves. But at the same time, it is not working. Yeah. So that kind of happens at this defensive part where they're not able to listen and grow because, you know, it's painful. And so they're protecting themselves from that pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the trick though, is to get people to talk to people in a way that they can deal with the pain of recognizing change, that they have to change. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to call people into that, to say, I know that this hurts, but you have to do this, and to get them over that barrier. That's the challenge.
Right. And sometimes it's and like, it is an inevitable process to lament once you realize how you've been a part of the problem and not the solution, because we all want to think that our intentions are enough. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we have egos and we look back, and it's hard to have to look back through a completely different lens and feel like, God, what have I been doing my whole life? You know, if everything I thought was wrong. And some people aren't able to cope, you know, and it's a psychological thing. Like I'm honestly halfway, like, understand and have some grace, because it is a difficult thing to cope with. And especially if you are more, and have more of an ordained kind of view on life, or like it's kind of given to you blueprint. And that's where you find that you can more like exist and grow in, versus exploratory, which is totally me. Like it's that risk, you know, drowning in the water versus sink or swim versus on a boat, you know. And when this stuff comes up, this is a fucking monsoon, you know, once you realize it.
Yes.
So it is difficult. I do recognize that, but it's also extremely important and necessary. We have to be in that process.
We do.
But we're honestly pretty screwed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So
this
at least right now we are. Go ahead.
Oh, this conversation got way deeper than I was anticipating, but it's awesome. I'm gonna make Keem cut our whole other conversation short, just so that I can include like this whole conversation on the podcast this week.
Oh, come on. Cool.
Yeah, because this got we dug into stuff way more than I was expecting to. But
see, that's my music.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how to have small talk. I don't.
Yeah.
It's so awkward. Like my small talk sounds like hey, I don't really know how to do small talk, but I want to talk to you.
I don't fuck with small talk. I don't fuck with small talk. I started a conversation the other day on OkCupid by asking somebody, like, what was it that I asked? I don't know. Something about like gender theory. I'm like, this is how I have conversations. Like, let's talk about everything right now. Like, if you're not down for that, I don't want to talk to you. Like, I don't want to talk about like my favorite TV show. I want to talk about how you feel about whether or not we should celebrate the 4th of July. Like, that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, quick. Is gender the same thing as sex? Or, genitalia,
Yes.
And
exactly.
if they're like, and they're like, okay, well, have a nice day.
Yeah.
Thanks for not making me waste my, my finite energy.
Exactly. Like, let's have this conversation now, and let's get to know each other that way.
Right.
But as we wrap up this conversation, tell me one more time. I realized I didn't do this at the beginning of our conversation. Who are you? Tell me about you.
Oh, fuck.
Who are you?
Okay. I am SJ Bennett. I am a reading specialist in South Memphis here because I personally feel like that is the most important civil rights component of our time. Mm-hmm. But I have to be careful because it's really easy for me to be like a white savior or do that white saviorism talk. So it's like, I'm not going to say any more about that. And I'm also a musician, and I live in Memphis. I've lived here for about 4 years. Before that, I lived in Nepal. And I've taught always, and I'm a passionate person. I'm trying to think. Oh, I'm just talking about my music. Next, because right now that's who I am. I swear to God, that is I have blinders on. I'm like super focused on it because this is the first huge event that I've thrown by myself. It's the first project that I've taken on solo, started solo, and so I'm learning as I go, and so it's hard work. So the event, July 13th, starts at 8. First 30 minutes, information tables, a social justice organization. Next 30 minutes, some of the best spoken word artists in the city. The next 40-ish minutes, first set. Then in between that vulnerable surprise I was talking about, and then the next set, and then a DJ afterwards, and then we get to go home exhausted.
Yay!
And I hope everyone, and there's going to be a live painting, too, from my favorite artist probably ever. I'm going to give her a shout-out, Amy Beth Bryce. It is the shit.
Yay!
For real. Yeah. But yeah, did you want me to continue that, or are you wrap up in time?
I'm going to wrap this up. But thank you again for talking with me. Check out the Facebook page. I'm going to be promoting everything on the Facebook page.
Yay!
And yes, thank you so much for coming on to talk with me. This got to be a really, really good conversation, and I definitely would love to have you on again to talk educational justice or like music as activism, or literally anything that you want to come yell for a while about. Literally anything.
Because it's like when those subjects come up, I'm like, yes or no, because it's going to be a while. Like I'm warning you, let's not have this conversation, or it's going to be a conversation.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have that.
But yes, we will.
Thanks so much for having.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'll put you on the schedule, and so we'll when we feel like that's about to come up on the calendar, like we'll give you a call. We will definitely be in touch about stuff to have you back on the podcast again. Especially since this conversation turned into something incredible. But yeah, thank you again.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And it was so great to talk to you. And I will see you.
You too.
I will see you next Thursday. All right, guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that interview with SJ. Thanks again, SJ, for talking with us. It was great to talk to you. I hope to have you on again soon to talk more about all sorts of things.
And maybe I'll get to meet SJ, because I never get to meet people.
I know, right? But yeah, I've already talked to her about coming on to talk about potentially to talk about music as a form of activism, which is something near and dear to my heart. I had a conversation with her about coming on to talk about education justice, which again is something that is super relevant to me. And also like very like important things. So in any case, hopefully SJ will be on again soon to talk with us. And but now we are moving on to the sex segment. And I did not tell Keem what we were talking about today.
I know, that's gonna be a surprise.
So what I want to talk to you guys today, we've dug into a lot of heavy things on the sex segment so far. But we're going to lighten it up a little bit today again. And I want to talk to you guys about bullet vibes.
Ooh.
And I know exactly what Keem pictured when I said bullet vibes.
Yes.
You pictured the pink thing, right?
Yes.
So, guys, I covered this a little bit when we did our Toys 101 back in episode 16. So a bullet vibe is a vibrator, but it's a specific kind of vibrator. And the reason that I'm digging into bullet vibes first, as we talk about sex toys in like specific sex toys, is first off, they're easily the kind of sex toy that I use the most often. It's just true. I use them nearly every time I have any kind of sex. It just happens. But also bullet vibes, out of everything that's on the market, are typically the most versatile, and the cheapest, typically. If you are going in to find the cheapest kind of vibrator that you can, you're probably going to walk out with a bullet vibe, which makes these some of the most accessible kinds of sex toys that are out there. So we're going to talk a little bit about like what a bullet vibe is, how to buy a bullet vibe, what you're looking for with regards to a bullet vibe. And some of this stuff is going to cross over to all kinds of vibrators, both like bullet vibes, other kinds of external vibes, and like insertables of various kinds. Some of these things, like I said, are going to cross over, but some of these are specific to bullet vibes. So a bullet vibe at its heart is a small vibrator, usually between 3 and like 4 inches long, and usually about like a half inch or so in diameter, that typically has some kind of point on the end, right? Not a super sharp point, but it typically, there's a way to get some pinpoint sensation, right? My favorite ones have a pinpoint, like it come to an edge or a point, and also have a larger flat surface, just so that you can have a little bit more variety in the kinds of sensations that you can get. These are typically billed as clitoral vibes, and that's one of the most common uses, but I have had excellent mileage with them, using them against multiple parts of people's bodies, right? Whether that's on the clit, whether that's like hell, I sometimes will hold my bullet vibe sideways, like over various parts of my vulva, just to get some sensation in various ways. I sometimes will lay mine alongside my labia, and then it gets vibration in the whole vulva, while still leaving like my vaginal opening, like open for, putting things in. It's a whole thing. I've had a lot of success. If you have a penis and balls and you are curious, like this is a great way to test out if you might be interested in some kinds of vibration on various parts of your junk, whether that could be you could place it like along the underside of your cock, that can deliver a particular sensation, or just like move it around and try it in different places, right? It's easy to maneuver. It's small. Bullet vibes, most of them that you want to buy have multiple settings, so you can play with varying intensities and patterns. But yeah, so a bullet vibe is very versatile. It can be used by all kinds of people with all kinds of parts, as long as you're interested in playing with vibration. And so it's fun. Have I used mine on you yet, Keem?
A little. I think we tried a little bit, and then we got distracted, which is generally the case.
That sounds like us. But yeah, so everyone can enjoy. Well, everyone can try vibration, right? You may or may not enjoy it depending on what your body likes. That's fine. Nobody says that you have to like vibration. But you like bullet vibes, like I said, are typically advertised and talked about as clitoral vibes, but anybody with any parts can use them. It doesn't matter. Do be aware that a bullet vibe is going to be, for the most part, is going to be a little slimmer, like a little skinnier than what you would want to use vaginally for optimum like hitting the right spots. But your mileage may vary. That might be something that you enjoy. But a bullet vibe is not going to be anal safe. Don't put a bullet vibe in your butt. There's nothing there on a bullet vibe that is going to prevent that from just going all the way in and be in there.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to go to the ER to get a bullet vibe out of your butt. Also, you don't want a bullet vibe running in your butt while you are on your way to the ER, because that would be not very fun, I imagine. Anyway, so don't put a bullet vibe in your butt. You can put it on the outside, like lay it against places, whatever, but don't put it inside.
It's going to be a very awkward conversation of why you have a vibrating tube of lipstick up your butt.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to have that conversation. No. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. If you want vibration anally, there are things for that. There are anal safe vibrators that have a base. We will talk about that at a point in the future. So bullet vibes. Shopping for a bullet vibe. You can go in and you can buy one for $10. You can. Or my favorite one, the pink thing, which is the We Vibe Tango, I believe at my local sex store retails for $80, which the salesman or the salesperson, when I went in I was in for like a $10, $15 bullet one time. And he goes, "Oh, but try this one." And I looked at the price tag and I was like, $80? And he's like, "No, just try it." And he turned it on and put it in my hand. And I went, okay. Because it is awesome. It is awesome. With vibrators, the more typically, not exclusively, but typically, the more you pay for it, the better it will be. Because there are large jumps as you go up in price point from in the technology from one to the next, right? So a $10, $15 bullet probably is going to have one speed or maybe three, right? I think the Tango or the Tantus bullets that come with their toys are like the little cheap rocks off bullets. Those ones I think have 3 speeds. So small number of speeds, right? Also, they're going to be battery operated. And the smaller the battery, the less power you're going to get. So The little cheap ones might use a watch or not a watch battery, but like the little what are they called, Keem?
I don't know what they're called. The little batteries.
Yeah, the little round disc batteries.
I just called them watch batteries for years. So.
Yeah, which are more expensive than AAA or AA batteries. They're a pain in the neck to get, and they don't provide all that much power, so your bullet vibe is not going to have as much power as you want. As you go up in price point, you can get ones that are AAA or that use a AAA battery or a AA battery that have a little bit more power. And that will jump you up to like $25 or so. But then if you jump up one more price point, you're starting to get into the territory of rechargeable vibrators that you plug in. Typically now they use a USB cord, which you can plug into your computer if you want to, but I never do. I just plug it into the base of my cell phone charger and charge that sucker up. And now you're looking at $35, $40 for a vibrator that you don't have to buy batteries for, that has more power, that has typically more speeds, right? So the more speeds and better speeds usually. And then as you jump up to up above $50, up above $60, all the way up to the holy grail of bullet vibes, which is the We Vibe Tango, like I said. At least that's my holy grail. Now you're looking at, depending on where you go, you can find it for $70. Like I said, my local sex store has it for $80, but they mark everything up. But you're looking at a significant jump in the technology for the bullet. It is worth it if you have the money for it, right? If you're just looking to test out if you might like some vibration, by all means, go with a $10, $15, $20 little cheap vibe, right? If you know that you like vibration and you're disappointed by your cheaper vibes, save up some money because the higher end ones are worth it, right? The higher end ones are worth it. What are you thinking, Keem?
Oh no, I was just I was distracted by how the flashback from the past.
Oh,
yeah.
Keem's just thinking about the last time we had sex. That's all.
Hey, the last couple times. But I will vouch those the bullet vibes are handy as all hell.
Yeah, they're small. They fit easily between bodies if that's something that you are using them for partnered sex. They are very. It's easy to find the right spot. Typically, they're very, very handy. I will say, when you're talking about battery operated versus rechargeable, Keem, what's the problem with rechargeable ones?
It could. They're not always. You can keep batteries in there, but sometimes, like if you forget the rechargeable ones, they're not.
What's my problem with rechargeable ones?
You can't keep them charged.
I always forget to charge them. So yeah, that's the problem with rechargeable ones. Is the quality of the motor is going to be better typically, but you do have to remember to charge them. And if you happen to have a really long session, I've done this too. If you happen to have a really long session with a partner who also likes vibration, like this vibrator could be running for an hour, and at which point it's out of juice, and it always seems to run out of juice right at the exact moment that you need it to not run out of juice. That's the main problem with rechargeable ones. Like if you have a battery operated one, you can just whip the end off, stick another battery in it, twist it back on, and go. Whereas with a rechargeable one, you better have a backup vibrator, otherwise you're sadly disappointed. And if you're like me and forget to charge your backup vibrator too, like sad times Sad times.
Somebody's gonna wonder why you.
So sad.
Somebody's gonna wonder why you have all these cell phone chargers around the house, but one cell phone.
You've been to my house. I do. I have cell phone chargers all over my house, and I use them to charge my vibrator. I am not even embarrassed to admit. So my WeVibe Tango is my go-to, and I have remembered as I am packing to go visit you for a weekend that I have forgotten to charge my vibrator. I have charged my vibrator on the cell phone charger in my car as I drive to go visit you. I'm not even ashamed to say. It's a thing. I've done it multiple times. Whatever. Yes, I have done that multiple times. So the last little piece of information that I want to give you guys about Bullet Vibes, no, there's a couple pieces that I want to give you guys about Bullet Vibes before I go into some specific recommendations for what to shop for, is that there with all vibrators. If you look at anything in the sex toy industry, like any writing, any blogs, anything, there's two different words that are used to describe the vibrations put out by a vibrator, and that's buzzy and rumbly. Now, which one you like is very personal, right? Like everybody's bodies respond to different things differently, but typically rumbly is better. And the difference there, it has to do with the motor and the frequency of the power going to the motor. And I am not a mechanic or I don't know anything about this, about like the actual like motors in these things. But typically battery operated vibrators are more buzzy and rechargeable ones are more rumbly. And that's not necessarily like a hard and fast rule, but that's what's typical. Buzzy means that the vibrations are going to stay on the surface of your skin more. If you have had a vibrator before that made you go numb quickly, it was a buzzy vibrator, right? The buzzy surface vibrations are what causes that numbness in your nerves on the surface of your skin. That's where that comes from. A rumbly vibe is going to penetrate deeper into your tissue. So if you're using it on your clit, it's going to stimulate more of the internal structures of your clit. It's going to be less numbing than a buzzy vibrator. A lot of very, very few, especially Bullet Vibes, are straight up rumbly. The WeVibe Tango is probably the closest to that, but it still will make my fingertips go a little numb if I have it on too long. I have not had a lot of problem with desensitization of other parts of my body, but the buzziest of the buzzy vibes are the little battery operated ones, which I have a couple from Tantus. Like I said, the Tantus ones that come with their dildos. I have a couple of those, which they're buzzy. They're not the buzziest of the buzzy, but they're buzzy. And they are very numbing, and I almost never use them, because by the time I get off with the vibrations, I just I can't feel anything anymore, for a couple hours afterwards. But in between the buzziest of the buzzy and straight up rumbly, there's a lot of variation from company to company, from model to model, within that. And it's just a matter of finding one that you like, right? Within that range, it's just a matter of finding what is your preference, which one works for you. Some people do like a little bit more buzzy combined with some rumbly. It just provides a different kind of sensation. But it's all very personal preference. Just find one that works for you is the best piece of advice. If you have a local store that you can go into that has a setup where you can play with some of these toys, this is kind of gross, and you should it sounds kind of gross, and you should probably ask for a antibacterial wipe before you do this. But the number one way to tell if if a vibrator is buzzy or rumbly, is to hold it on the end of your nose.
I'm sorry.
I know, it sounds hilarious. And like I said, if you are going into a sex store where people have been handling these toys, you should probably ask for an antibacterial wipe before you put a sex toy on your face, just because of people's gross hands. But the number one way to tell if you have access to these vibes, especially before you buy them, the number one way to tell is to touch it to the end of your nose. So if you touch a vibrator to the end of your nose and just the end of your nose itches, it's a buzzy vibe, because you can tell that that's not penetrating through the tissue on your face, right? If you feel it just in the end of your nose and your nose starts to itch, it's buzzy. A rumbly vibrator, when you touch it to your nose, you'll feel those vibrations all the way down into your cheeks and all the way over to like your eye socket. You'll feel all of it through that whole front part of your face. And that's how you can tell that you have a rumbly vibe on your hands. And that will give you, and you can tell, like, when you see that, or when you feel that, like, you can tell how far those vibrations are going to spread into the tissue in whatever part of the body that you put it on. And it's going to stimulate more of those nerves in a deeper way, right? You can tell as you do that. And so then so that's a consideration, right? Like I said, typically rumbly is better, but it's going to be a little bit more expensive, or in some cases it's going to be a lot more expensive, right? Because that rumbly quality comes along with the improvement in technology as you jump up the price points, right? The cheapest vibrator that you can find is not going to be rumbly at all, because it uses the cheapest technology, and the cheapest technology is buzzy. That's just the way it is. Not to say that you can't enjoy that toy. It's just going to be a different quality of sensation. The only other thing I wanted to talk about before we go into some specific recommendations and then wrap this conversation up is sizes. So like I said, there's a lot. A bullet vibrator is typically 3 to 4 inches long, depending on the manufacturer, and is usually about a half an inch in diameter. But there's some variation in that. That's not a hard and fast rule. The diameter is a little. I'm just looking at my ruler now. I'm actually going to say a bullet vibe is typically like between 2 and 3 inches long. I'm bad at lengths. Sorry. But a half inch does hold up. So between 2 and 3 inches long and about a half an inch in diameter. The length has more variation, but the half inch is pretty standard. Like I said, there's a lot of different manufacturers that make toys that have a spot for a bullet vibe. I know, like I said, Tantus, they're toys that are sold as vibrators. They don't have an internal motor. They have a bullet vibe, like cavity where you can put the bullet vibe inside it. They do sell them with a bullet vibe. It's not the best quality. It's not the worst quality, but it's not the best quality. But because of that standard size, I can easily swap that out with my Tango, and suddenly I have an upgrade on my toy, right? So Tantus sells toys with a bullet cavity. Fuse dildos have a bullet cavity. A whole bunch of them. Most of the double-ended toys that are on the market, the Tantus Real Dough, the Field Dough, anyway, there's a bunch of them. Most of them have a bullet cavity of some kind. Lots and lots of these toys, if it has a bullet cavity, it's probably set for a standard half-inch bullet. There are a few, though, that come in different sizes. So I was very, very sad when I got my my Fun Factory Share, which is a dual-ended toy. It comes with a bullet. It's a vibrating. I got the Share Vibe. It's a vibrating toy, and it comes with the Fun Factory Bullet, which is larger. The Fun Factory Bullet is between 3/4 of an inch and an inch wide, right? It's a much wider bullet than the standard. And so my beloved Tango wouldn't fit in the hole. It just doesn't fit. And so I spent a long time looking and researching and digging and hunting for something that's a little bit better than the Fun Factory bullet. So the Fun Factory bullet, not terrible, not great. It only has I think two steady speeds and then a few patterns that I don't like because I don't like patterns most of the time anyway. But I don't like the patterns, and the set speeds are not fast enough for me. And it's just a problem, right? Like, it is really difficult to get it to work for me. So I spent a long time like hunting for a bullet that I would like better than that would fit in the hole on this toy, this non-standard size bullet cavity. And I finally found one from a company that's awesome. The company is Vedo. That's Vedo. And they have a bullet. It's longer than the Fun Factory bullet, but it's nearly as wide. I have to stick the finger I cut the finger off a nitrile glove and stick the finger over the thing, and that gives it just enough width to make it stay in the cavity without moving around. But so I finally found this, and I'm so glad that I did, because I'm going to talk more about this Vedo bullet when I do my recommendations. But be aware that there are a few bullets out there that are not standard sizes, and there's a few out there there are more and more out there that are not standard shapes either. I think Rocks Off has one that's square randomly, and I'm like, okay, whatever. It's square and has an angled tip. It did not get terribly good reviews, but it exists. But most things that have a bullet cavity do use that standard size, in which case most of the bullets that are on the market are going to fit. Just pay attention as you're buying. If you know that you're going to be using it for that, pay attention to what it is. Keem, do you have any questions before I give you recommendations? I
do not.
You do not?
No.
You've heard me ramble about bullet vibes before. I will talk about toys all day long. You know this. Mm-hmm. So very quickly, as we're wrapping up, I'm going to give you my recommendations at all the different price points, just so that you can go make an educated decision about what you want to buy if you're gonna go out and buy toys. So what I would recommend for the cheapest one that's out there is probably the Rocks Off line. They have a wide variety of different products that are out there between like $15 and $30. They have the new the jump in the price point with the rechargeable. They have a new rechargeable line. But if you're going for just a cheap battery operated standard, like I just need something that vibrates bullet, go with the Rocks Off. It's the same one that Tantus uses basically. It's just a cheap little bullet. It's straightforward, battery operated, not a problem. I would go with that. If you are willing to make the next jump up to the next price point, I would say go with Vedo. Again, that's Vedo. They have a huge range of products. Their bullet that I got is the Vedo BAM, and that is a rechargeable bullet. It's about 3 inches long and about like 3/4 of an inch, a little bit more than 3/4 of an inch wide. And it is hands down the best bullet for the price. Hands down. I paid, I want to say $40 for it, but if you go online, you can find it for cheaper than that. I've even seen it some places for as cheap as $30. That's what I get for shopping in my local sex toy stores where they mark everything up crazy. So shop around for those. The BAM that I have is rechargeable. And they have a number of different, if you, that's just a straight bullet shape. It's got a rounded end with a little bit of a tip, a little bit of a point at the end. It's not crazy. But they have a handful of other bullet vibe styles where they've got different kinds of textures or shapes on the end, or they've got one that comes into a point. There's different kinds of things that work the same way as a bullet vibe. It's not a smooth bullet shape. But they've got several different ones that are rechargeable, but they do also have a line of battery operated ones that use a AA battery. So that's going to be the most powerful one, that you can get. Those are more closer to like $25 a pop. So that's a little bit higher than the Rock Soft, but still not crazy. But it's got the convenience factor of being battery operated. Also, I have experienced one of their battery operated toys. It is a little bit buzzier than the rechargeable one, but it is still a really good quality toy for a battery operated. That is definitely worth the price on that one, I would say. But they don't have the regular straight bullet vibe with that. They only have ones that have funny shapes at the end. So, take a look at their line, see if anything appeals to you. But they do have, it is a very good quality vibe for being battery operated. The next jump up there is the rechargeable Vito line, which is definitely worth the price. That's my backup vibe. Sometimes it's my primary vibe, depends what I'm into. But then the next one that I would recommend that you've heard me mention over and over and over and over and over again is the WeVibe Tango. Like I said, I paid $80 for mine. You can find it for $70. That's a big jump, but it's definitely worth it. I am kind of embarrassed to admit that I don't have anything to recommend in the gap there. I know that they exist. Look for reviews. Google whatever toy it is that you're looking for, reviews, and see what is available. These are all things that there's dozens, hundreds of options out there at every price point. Those happen to just be the three that I know and would recommend, because they're not terrible. And in the case of the Vito Bam and the WeVibe Tango, they're actually really good, which is what you want from your sex toy. You want to know that you're going to get a good sex toy, especially if you're going to drop some money on it. But yeah, so that's my rant about bullet vibes, guys. Very versatile, lots of different price points, super handy. They're just fun. Cannot recommend them enough.
And we are not sponsored by any of these people.
Anyway,
that's probably going to be the end of our show today.
Yes, that is the end of our show.
It's very special thanks to SJ from the Outcry for the interview. I'm sad. I like the rest of you listeners, I will be listening to it for the first time when the podcast comes out.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So I'm excited to hear it. But special thanks. It's very, very special thanks. Anything else we need to add? As always, links for news stories will be in the description.
Yeah, check our links. We've got stuff. I will have links to all of these sex toys that I linked or that I talked about. It's a thing.
Check out our Facebook page.
Yes, many things on the Facebook page, including I've got up there the event page for the Outcry's debut concert. Also, Keem's Law School GoFundMe. Give him money.
Yes, please.
There is not a single person in this world who is more deserving of your support than Keem.
So if anyone would be kind enough to donate or share, it would mean the absolute world to me. Because I am also under this massive anger and rage at things. I am a huge softy. And I will, and people will donate me money, and I will cry. And
yes, he will. That's true.
Is there?
Thanks again to the Living Room Leftists for providing our theme music that we use every single week, because y'all are amazing. Go to livingroomleftist.bandcamp.com and buy their album because they're awesome, and you need to hear their whole album.
That is very true. Go check it out. Go check it out.
Yes.
Also, as we've state every episode, if you're an artist who wants to be featured on our show, please contact us.
Yes.
We are here to get you out there.
And if you have questions for us, don't forget that our question and answer episode is coming up on August 20th, and we can take questions to answer on that until August 19th. Up through August 19th, we'll be taking questions. So if you have a burning question for either of us, hit us up on our Facebook page, message us, whatever. We will answer your questions.
All right. If there's nothing else, we will end it. This has been, as always, Keem and Esmé. And we are out.
But there are these things that matter, and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.